Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to NFL Thoughts. So, Dak is going to be back this week against the Detroit Lions on Sunday. And I kind of wanted to talk about it. I kind of have a little bit of, butterflies in my stomach a little bit because, at this point, like, I got freaking PTSD. I'm gonna be having PTSD, at this point, from this point forward. Every time Dak throws a pass. Um, but nonetheless, he is back. So that's all the good news I need to be. That's all the good news I needed to hear after that Eagles game. And as far as how I think it's gonna go, well, Dak said it himself. He said it best when he basically said that he feels like he's learned a lot from being on the sidelines watching Cooper Rush. And don't make it as a thing of like, oh, Cooper Rush is better and he's just, Dak needs to take notes from Cooper Rush. It's like, yeah, it is kind of that, but don't make something that out of something, don't try to create something that isn't valid at all. Like, don't try to make it as if like, don't make it as if Dak needs to, like, as if Cooper Rush is better just because Dak talking about that he learned a lot from watching Cooper Rush play. What it's not that Cooper Rush is better than Dak Prescott. It's the fact that I feel like Cooper Rush kind of did it the game manager role. I mean, remember Dak Prescott back in his rookie season, him and Ezekiel Elliott, and he was more of a game manager. He managed the game. He didn't try anything too crazy, really. And that's because we had the league's leading rusher in the backfield. And we technically, I'm not going to sit here and act like we still have that 2016 Ezekiel Elliott, but let's not act like, Zeke is washed, though. Zeke can still be 2018, 2019 Ezekiel Elliott when actually given the ball and when Kellen Moore actually adjusts to creating better blocking schemes to open up holes for Zeke to run through. And I feel like 2020, he didn't really get that. And 2021, he was getting that. And as much as we want to talk about how, Ezekiel Elliott, after tearing his PCL and playing through that kind of hurt him, trying to play through that injury, for an entire season. That's why his stats looked not as good after the Giants game. But thing is he got hurt the week before against the Panthers when he tore his PCL, and he comes back and carries the ball 21 times for 119 yards against the Giants. So, what was really the big issue? It was the offensive line. After Tyron Smith went down in, correct me if I'm wrong, the Vikings game, after he went down, the offensive line wasn't the same again. Zeke's average yards per carry wasn't the same. And then Tony Pollard, well, maybe there were some games that his average yards per carry looked good, but a lot of it came from, from like one big run that he would get, and that would inflate his rushing stats. When we're talking about consistent yardage, Zeke and Pollard, it weren't really getting that after the offensive line change after Tyron Smith went down. And so when you look at it and you realize that Zeke needs to have holes opened up for him to run through, and there's no doubt about it. So to make it as if the injury was the only issue, don't get me wrong, an injury like that, PCL tear, I mean, that's pretty major. That's pretty severe. And having to play on that for basically the rest of the season, you're not able to cut back the same way. You don't have that same explosive, like cut like you usually did. So trust me, that is major, major. But it was also the offensive line not able to open up holes and not able to, move people around like they were the first 6 games, all the way until Tyron Smith got hurt. And we need to realize that. And so you saw in that game against the Eagles how Kellen Moore made some blocking adjustments, and all of a sudden in the second half we ran the ball better. And it technically happened near the end of the first half when we were running the ball pretty well, because Zeke, after that Cavante Turpin run, which kind of shifted the momentum a little bit, we kind of drove with a short field, and Zeke had a 9-yard carry here, 5-yard carry there, 7-yard carry there, got us all the way inside the 10, where unfortunately we weren't able to get it in the end zone. If we would have gotten it in the end zone, that game probably goes differently, because we wouldn't have had ourselves in that 20-3 hold. We would have been in a 20-7 hold, which a 4-point difference, trust me, is super critical in how the rest of the game may go. So, with that being said, second half, we ran the ball exceptionally well. We ran the ball phenomenal in the second half. And you saw how we fell behind 20-0, and yet we only had 2 yards fewer rushing than the Eagles had. They had 136 total yards rushing as a team. We had 134, and we were the ones who fell behind 20-0. So whatever they were doing, I mean, it is what it is, But yeah, I liked how Kellen Moore tried to make some adjustments to keep the fact that he trusted the running game still, and he wanted to still commit to it, which is why he made some adjustments mid-game, is what I liked. That's what I liked, and we need more of that from Kellen Moore. There's way too many times in the past where we fall down to a deficit like that, and he's so quick to want to, start passing the ball, just passing it. And, he was doing that when Dak was our quarterback, and whatever. But he understands that I got this backup quarterback here, Cooper Rush, and I need to understand that I can't just have the same type of coaching mentality with this backup quarterback in Cooper Rush the same way as I did with Dak Prescott, because Dak Prescott's a whole different breed. Not that I want us to throw the ball, 40, 50 times a game, but I'm just saying, when we fall behind and get ourselves into holes like that, we can trust that Dak Prescott can, get us back into that game almost single-handedly. We understand that. But this is Cooper Rush we're talking about. Cooper Rush is not going to single-handedly bring us back from a 20-0 hold like Dak Prescott will. So Kellen Moore obviously made some adjustments, and we ended up making that game 20-17. But nonetheless, this was supposed to be a Dak Prescott video, basically. I don't know where it went when we started talking about the Eagles game, but basically what I'm trying to get at is that I don't think that Dak, as we know, he's a top 10 quarterback, all right? I know he's a top 10 quarterback, especially. And the thing is, we don't need him to play like a top 10 quarterback. We just need him to play well. And we need him to manage the football game. I feel like there were way too many times, over the course of maybe the past couple of years or few years or so. Don't get me wrong, I'm a Dak Prescott supporter all, any day of the week. You already know that. But I'm saying there had been some times in the past, at least since like 2019, where, when Dak officially upgraded his throwing ability, I feel like he got a little too, cute with the fact that he had now improved himself as a passer by 2019. That he started doing some stuff that he wasn't doing before in 2016 through 2018, you know? And so he kind of was taking it for granted, you know, for the fact that he's a better passer now. But just because you're a better passer, a much more improved passer, doesn't mean you have to all of a sudden turn into Brett Favre and out there, gunslinging in some wild ways. And I felt like at times that was what Dak was doing. So he understands. We all know Dak is better than Cooper Rush. Matter of fact, there's a lot of quarterbacks out there, that Dak is way better than. He's he's seventh ranked by PFF as far as quarterbacks for a reason. And because yeah, he is by far the seventh best quarterback in the league. And I know he's barely played. He only had that game against the Bucks, but I'm just saying, man, like we know he's a top 10 quarterback, but we don't need him to play as if he's a top 10 quarterback. I know it's weird and funny to say, but he doesn't need to play like that top 10 quarterback. He doesn't have to. As a top 10 quarterback, you also understand IQ and understand, that I don't need to take this chance. I don't need to take this shot down the field all the time. You know, I don't need to be aggressive like this. I don't need to force this pass. And I think basically that's what he was talking about and explaining when he said, I've learned a lot from watching Cooper Rush play, because Cooper Rush wasn't doing all that. He was just out there trying to manage the football game and win. And I think it kind of came to a fault, in that Eagles game where he is a game manager at the end of the day. And unfortunately, you know, I don't want to say game manager. He was conservative a lot of times. And unfortunately, you can't fully depend on a conservative quarterback when you fall behind 20 to nothing. Which is why I knew as soon as Cooper Rush was put in that situation, I knew that we were probably, I there was no doubt in my mind. I thought we would make this game close, but I thought that Cooper Rush was probably gonna panic because he hasn't been in this situation all year. And to be quite honest with you, in his 6 starts in his career, he's never had to deal with this because he's always seemed to be ahead of the other team. So he never had to do all this crazy stuff. Well, all of a sudden, now he's forcing passes, and it is what it is. But Cooper Rush, let's be honest, we knew that Cooper Rush is exactly what we thought he was. He's a backup quarterback at the end of the day. We know who our franchise quarterback is, our quarterback of the future. We know who it is, and it's number 4. But now it's time for Dak to understand those things and learn from what Cooper Rush was doing, which was just managing the football game until that Eagles game, managing the football game and just, doing everything not to lose the football game. And that's what Dak, just needs to understand. And at the end of the day, I think after hearing that quote from him, that was just music to my ears. And now I'm ready for this game because I'm ready to see how much of a different quarterback Dak is now. How much he has learned from watching Cooper Rush play, because now that, takes him over the hump to becoming that better quarterback than he already is. And so, yeah, I'm excited. I'm really excited for this game upcoming on Sunday. And, like I just said before, I will make my score predictions, my predictions, period, about this game tomorrow, the eve of the game, as we always do. So, with that being said, like, subscribe. This is NFL Thoughts. Out.